Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Market Snapshot series. My name is Rufus Kamau, Markets Analyst at FXPesa. So today we'll be talking about the top events currently happening in the markets. So with main focus on the gold rally and the US and employment claims. So I would like to start with a disclaimer that this session is not investment advice. It's not a recommendation to trade. So you should always do your own due diligence and practice proper risk management. So apologies. Kindly text that you can hear me clearly, and then from there we can proceed. So hello, Paul Kerry. Can you hear me clearly? Apologies, I was on Bluetooth when I was just starting. So can they respond? Hello, Linton Kibuchi. Thank you for responding. If you can hear me clearly, just say you can hear me clearly on the comment section. Perfect. This is really good. Thank you guys for your response. Profit and Hedge, thank you. I can see Paul Carriel, Linton, Wangari Patrick, James Mbogo, Smith, FX, Dishon, Ndamboki. Thank you guys. So let's get this going. Today will be a much shorter session compared to previous sessions. So today being the 21st of November, we are rapidly approaching the Black Friday. This is when we get out of retail sales, especially from commercial websites. This is when we focus on eBay. This is when we focus on Amazon and many other websites. We know that they make out of sales during the November sales period. So Black Friday is kind of a theme right now. So if you're looking into things, that will be the main thingy. So today being Thursday, the 21st of November, we have quite a number of things happening on the economic calendar. We had a speech from BOJ, Governor Ueda, a speech from RBA, Governor Bullock. This is the Reserve Bank of Australia. And going forward for the rest of the day, we'll be having unemployment claims coming from the US, as well as the Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index. So that's the only thing that we're expecting for the day. Of course, for unemployment claims, we expect an uptick from 217K to 220K, meaning that we're expecting to see an increase in the number of people who are claiming for unemployment insurance in the US of A. So, of course, an increase in unemployment claims is expected to be quite pressure on the labor market. And if we see an increase in unemployment claims, it means that the Fed will slow down in the rate cuts, which is positive for the dollar. But in case we get a much smaller number, then it should be negative for the dollar. So as for the Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index, we're expecting a slowdown from 10.3 to 7.4. So if we happen to see 7.4 or below, then it means that the economy is slowing down. Slowing down economy is not good for the US. In that case, we should be expecting a much weaker dollar. An expansion in manufacturing is expected to be good for the dollar. So besides that, I'll be jumping straight in what's the main thing for today. And today, the Nvidia saves the market. So all worries about the market have been about whether companies are reporting better than expected earnings or whether the companies will be reporting worse than expected earnings. So Nvidia earnings forecast top expectations as age of AI is in full steam. So we have been following the AI cycle, and we all understand that AI has been the key driving sector in the US stock market. And in any earnings call, all we have been waiting for is to hear the word AI coming from the person presenting the earnings call. So Nvidia reported that quarter earnings after the bell on Wednesday, that's yesterday, that topped expectations on the strength of sales of its high-powered AI chips, fueling what its CEO, Jensen Huang, called the age of AI. So right now, you need to at least accept that we are in the age of AI, and that's what's driving the tech sector. So the world's largest publicly traded company by market cap, Nvidia, reported earnings per share of $0.81 on a revenue of $35.1 billion. Analysts were expecting 0.74, so compared to 0.81, we have an upbeat. And then the revenues for the company were $33.2 billion compared to the reported $35.1 billion, which means it's also an upbeat. So this is the one company that continues showing better than expected earnings and better than expected revenues. So in this case, it's an upbeat. So we expect to see an uptick in both the Nasdaq, the SP 500, and of course the stock, which is Nvidia. So from what we are seeing, Nvidia stock is doing really well, though after the earnings report, what we are seeing is that in the aftermarket performance, the stock is down 2.53%. And why is this happening? In the previous earnings report, when we focused on Nvidia, what we saw was the company basically having what we call earnings watch. Like people were literally waiting for the earnings. So they basically planned parties to basically observe the earnings report. So this is one of the most, I don't think it's one of the most, it's the best company that is performing the best in the world. And they have the best microchips in the world. There's no other company that has more advanced chips than Nvidia. So when they reported that they are going to represent their earnings on the previous quarter, people had watch parties waiting to see whether the company will be reporting better than expected earnings or not. But then this confidence has shown quite a contrast in that when they are very close to reporting their earnings, investors will basically buy their stock way before the earnings release. And once the earnings are released, they will sell they will close their trades, basically sell the shares. And that's why we often have a negative outcome from their earnings. So in this case, we are already seeing quite a big drop, about 2.53%. But as we all know, whenever this stock drops, it's usually a bargain, and the price often leads to higher performance. So for instance, if you look at the current performance and then you look at the 5-day performance, we are down 1.19%. But if you look at the 1-month performance, we are up 1.52%. So this means kuna mchezo wa tauni, and this basically means that it's an urban game that usually happens, that people will often buy the stock way before the earnings, and then when the earnings are announced, they sell and make profits on that earnings outcome. So in 6 months' time, we are up 52%, and year to date, the stock is up 202.86%, and this is quite a huge performance. So outside of that, the market seems to be quite positive, well back in. And by back in, I mean we are back into the Trump bet. The Trump bet was on a strong dollar, strong performance of gold, strong performance of the US equities market. So we expect that to continue at least in the short run. So let's get straight into some technical analysis and try to understand where the markets might be headed next. And with that, let me check on the comment section. So Good question from Owen Moneki. What is fueling the JPY today? I'll be responding to that. There's a question of touching on the USD card as well as Audi New Zealand currency pair. So I'll be checking on that as we proceed. So let's get straight into it. This is the MetaTrader 5 trading platform. This is the app we use to trade. So with FX Pesa, once you install this application, you're able to access various global markets ranging from Forex, that is trading of currencies. You're able to access commodities, you're able to access foreign stocks, you're able to access indices, futures, as well as cryptocurrencies. So all this is available on one singular platform. So let's get right into it. So the dollar index has been pretty bullish, and if you check the weekly chart, the vertical dotted lines represent different weeks. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So for 7 straight weeks, we've had quite a bullish momentum. But for this week, and today being Thursday, this is what we are experiencing with the dollar index. So I wouldn't say that the dollar index is in a bullish momentum right now. I would most likely say that we are in a consolidation zone as the dollar index decides whether we are going upwards or downwards. What it seems that we might be in a correction territory. So if you look at other pairs, for instance, the Euro USD, the Euro has been one of the major pairs that has been determining the direction of the dollar index. Remember, the Euro is has the highest weight in the dollar index. So clearly, this is what we have had. Just give me a second. This is what we have had in the Euro. So clearly, this has been the direction of the Euro, basically ranging and eventually breaking down afterwards, meaning that for a period, we had some form of consolidation, indicating that the Euro is mounting a comeback against the dollar. But yesterday, we had a breakout on the lower side, confirmation, and today we are headed much further downwards. So in this case, we expect the Euro to continue losing against the dollar and perhaps at least see a retest of yesterday's low. So the overall expectation is that the Euro continues dropping lower and we get a retest of this level, which was yesterday's low. So in other pairs, it's the same thing. So if you look at the pound, we are seeing much, I would call it a consolidation, but in this case, if you look at the upper trend line and the lower trend line, then we are basically looking into a potential outcome where the pound basically breaks towards the lower side. And of course, the target is the lower side. So if we happen to see a break, then we could be seeing the drop to 1.25978. So that's kind of the target. So for pound yen, we are seeing quite a strength. So I remember the last session we had, we talked about the Bank of Japan and its Ministry of Finance basically intervening in the currency market. So they are trying to make sure that the yen doesn't strengthen too much. And now we are seeing this kind of price action where the yen is now regaining some strength. So in this case, we are seeing this happening. So just give me a sec. This is what's happening. So we are getting to see lower highs for the first time in a while. And of course, we are seeing the lower lows. So right now, we're just moving from the upper band or the upper trend line. So it's more likely that we will continue seeing some further downward momentum as the yen regains some strength, backed by the strength of the BOJ. So which means that we are likely to see some further downward momentum in the US pound yen currency pair 192.772. So Audi USD continues to struggle. Of course, we had the uptick happening earlier in the week. So far we have seen the Australian dollar trying to mount a comeback against the dollar. So I think it's one of the strongest currencies in the market right now, basically backed by gold production. So whenever you think of the Australian dollar, as much as you think of it as an Asian pair, you should also think of it as a gold pair. So there is usually a strong correlation between the Australian dollar and gold. So in this case, what we are seeing is the week being winning for the Australian dollar against the dollar. So right now we are seeing the market pushing for a higher outcome. So of course, the high that we're expecting is yesterday's high. So we could be seeing the Australian dollar extremely pushing its level to 0.65443 as gold continues to recover. Of course, we'll be focusing on gold in a few minutes. So dollar yen, we are seeing a very strong comeback for the dollar, especially after that big sell-off that happened here. So clearly, the dollar is recovering against the yen, though the Ministry of Finance is completely against it. So we haven't seen the Bank of Japan hiking interest rates, though they are promising or maybe talking about it. We call it JoJo, but the thing is, it hasn't happened yet. So the dollar continues rising against the yen. So after the pullback yesterday in the afternoon, we are seeing the market likely finding some support around this area here. So at some point, we should be expecting to see some form of recovery from the yen. From the dollar, sorry. So let's just observe and see how it plays out. But the idea is to be looking for a bullish position as the dollars continues dominating the market, and we should be seeing a new high happening after buyers come in. So as for the Nikkei 225 index, clearly it's a bearish market. So this is what we have been observing. Clearly, a very very strong bear market, but then it's approaching a key level support area. So we should be observing to see some bounce from these areas here. So we don't know whether the Nikkei will continue going down, but for now, it seems more likely that the price is moving in this direction. So in this case, a very short-term target around that 7,737. As for gold, it's a completely turn around from what was happening in the last 1 week. So if you look at the 4-hour chart, you'll notice that last week was completely bearish. This week is extremely bullish. So with what's currently happening between Russia and Ukraine, we are seeing more acceleration. So geopolitical tensions between Russia and Ukraine are increasing, and now it's expanding to the NATO. So if you haven't been following up on the story, then you should probably look into it. So as we discussed on Monday and Tuesday, we already know that gold is on a rebound. So it's moving much higher. Of course, the next target is all the way up. So it's a 2-week high. I remember when we saw this high some time back. So now we are looking at the extension of this bullish momentum all the way up to around $27.11 per ounce of gold. So this is quite an expectation. So I believe this should be the trade of the day, looking at further momentum upwards on gold. So as for Brent oil, I remember we talked about this on Monday, a very strong bounce from this area. We broke the previous week's high, and now if you look at this area here, this was the previous high. So the market has been really struggling to break into that area. So notice how we had so many times where the market was unable to break the area, but now we are headed right straight into it. So if you are an oil trader, short term, $73.634 per barrel of oil. And for an extension, we are looking at potentially 73.963. So TP1 or take profit 1 should be 73.634. And TP2 should be around 73.963. So for US equity indices, they have been staggering since breaking towards the lower side. So now we are almost mounting into a comeback. Clearly, it hasn't been working so well. So we continue observing this area here. And of course, we continue observing the upper side. So this seems to be the trajectory, and the overall trend for the last 3 days is this. So once we get to the lower trend line, we expect a bounce. So that might be a trade. And it's the same thing for the equity indices with the US 30 or the Dow Jones Stock Market Index having a very strong resistance for the last 3 days. Today is the fourth day on Thursday. So we haven't broken above 43,467. And this basically means that there's a good chance that we will be breaking above this area. Remember, the more a level has been tested, the more times a level has been tested, the higher the likelihood of the market breaking that area. So in this case, we should be observing to when the market eventually breaks towards the upper side, which should lead to a strong rally in the index. So it's the same thing for the Russell 2000 index. We haven't broken the 2,331. So we could be seeing the market retesting the area and pushing higher. And for the SP 500, also we are seeing some form of consolidation. So it's basically the markets moving sideways. So in this case, we are seeing this. We are also seeing this. So overall, it's a market that has been moving sideways. So we wait for the eventual break. So the chart of the day is Bitcoin seems to be forming even newer all-time highs. So today it hit a very new all-time high, a high we have never seen before of $97,833 per Bitcoin. Of course, there was some profit taking, and now we are seeing the market attempting to come back. So be observant on what's happening here, so that when the market eventually breaks towards the upper side, then we will be able to capture the bullish momentum. So this seems to be the overall direction. Of course, from the lower side, we have this, and this is the all-time high. So let's be prepared for an uptick in Bitcoin as we push towards the 100,000 price level. So the dollar index seems to be mounting a comeback after the sell-off yesterday in the evening. So notice yesterday in the evening there was a sell-off, but today it continues. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, we will be expecting to see some further upside in the dollar index as the Trump trade continues. So this is more of a consolidation, but at some point we should be expecting some further upside. Of course, the dollar index has been pretty strong. So in this case, the dollar regains against USD against the Swiss franc. So notice how we had this consolidation in USD CHF. So after the consolidation here, the market made a breakout yesterday, pulled back, and now is rebounding from the same trend line. Of course, the target for the day will be yesterday's high. So we should be expecting to see some 0.88623 as the key level target for the day. And of course, for the New Zealand USD, it seems like the New Zealand dollar is losing further against the dollar. So from the forward chart, it's more likely that we will be seeing the market moving further, looking towards the low of the week. So in this case, after the strong rally earlier in the week, we are seeing a potential reversal towards this area, which is 0.58366. So I had seen a comment on Audi New Zealand. Clearly, this is a breakout. So we have had several times where the market was unable to break this area here, but now we are seeing a clean breakout, which implies that we should be headed even much higher. So the Australian dollar could potentially extend the rally to 0.11495. So this seems like a clean trade towards this area. So that's it for the day. Thank you very much, guys. I can see some good comments here. So good morning, Robert Kavale. There's a question on USDN and pound yen analysis. We already did that. Morning, Rikoma. Gold against the euro. That's a good question. We already did gold against the dollar. So if I'm bullish on gold against the dollar and bearish on gold against the, bearish on euro USD, then that should clearly make sense. I expect euro to be losing to the dollar, and I expect the price of gold to be continuing to gain against the dollar, which means gold euro is even more bullish again compared to gold is gold USD is less bullish compared to gold euro. So gold euro should be more bullish. BNE is beer. Welcome to the session. So is Bitcoin going to hit 100,000 USD? It's almost a certain thing. Yeah, I think it's by now very certain that that Bitcoin is going to $100,000. So if you have been accumulating, then probably buy some more. So that's it for the day. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you on the next session.